What is up, guys? Welcome in. My name is Mountaineer Paul. This is Mountaineer Paul Talks Football. It's after the game. Well, I think they're running the last. I think there were 6 seconds left. Franklin's running up the score, like he historically does. It's just who he is as a coach. He has really no class. So running up the score. I understand that the scoreboard matters in a sense, but there was no need to score that last touchdown. But whatever, you got your backup in. My feelings are just rubbed raw. To be honest with you guys, I was probably I was more negative than I wanted to be tonight on Twitter and X, whatever you call it. Final score 38-15. Penn State really dominated this game from start to finish. West Virginia was really never in it. It never really felt like they were in it. And that has a lot to do with an inadequate offense led by Garrett Green, who was really up and down tonight. I was not pleased with the way he performed. He did perform with a lot of heart, guys, but he just doesn't have the arm talent to run the kind of offense that Neil Brown runs, which is very vanilla, by the way. I'm not in by any way, shape, or form calling him a guru, but you need somebody that can throw the ball over the middle, 15, 18 yards down the field. And my biggest gripe with Garrett Green since he got here has been that he struggles with the intermediate passing game. He's a pretty good deep ball thrower. You saw today he threw a bunch of balls on the the shoestring catches where guys were having to make shoestring catches. I mean, he may be the best we have on our roster, but he's not a Big 12 quarterback, in my opinion, guys. If you put him in Rich Rod's offense, I think he would do spectacular in that offense. I just think this offense does not fit what Garrett Green, what he's really good at. He's not so much of a pocket passer. But I don't know why they opened up the offense towards the end. It really looked like Penn State's defense did loosen up a little bit there. But at the same time, it seems like our offense kind of started clicking a little bit at the same time there towards the end. I'm sure there were multiple factors for that. I'm sure Penn State was just letting them get chunk yards, running off some clock. Drew Aller's the real deal, no doubt about that. I said on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, he'll probably be the number one pick whenever he comes out. That dude's an absolute beast, guys. We lost to a better football team. I don't think there's any shame in saying that. I thought our defense competed their tails off. There's a few guys that I think we can name on the defensive side. The secondary didn't have a good game, guys. Drew Aller was 21 for 29 in this game, and they had 2 or 3, maybe 4 drop passes that were wide open that would have gotten him quite a bit more yardage. It was a disheartening performance, although I expected it, if that makes any sense. Like when I actually thought we were going to lose worse than we did, and I'm really happy with, in some senses, some of the performances. The interior of the offensive line played extremely well. Really proud of those guys and how Zach Frazier and everybody played. But I feel like, even though Penn State was loading the box, they still weren't stopping the inside runs, the inside zone. And for whatever reason, Neil Brown is just not a good play caller. I'm not sure how that was his calling card coming to West Virginia. He was on the 08 Texas Tech team that was probably pretty good, but I don't know if that's a talent. I mean, you give any coach talent, and they're usually pretty good coaches. That's kind of how it goes, right? In Neil Brown's situation, I don't know that he would be a good offensive coordinator at the Power 5 level and a head coach at the same time. I don't know if that's taking away from his ability or whatever. But Neil Brown really made a bunch of questionable calls tonight, kept attacking the perimeter of the Penn State defense when they have one of them. They've got a Micah Parsons Jr. and Abdul Carter. Chop Robinson on the other side played extremely well at times tonight. Overall, it was just an extremely disappointing game. Had we had, there's no reason we shouldn't have been able to pass the ball the way that we ran the ball. There's 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 no reason. If we had a competent quarterback at all, and Neil Brown made the decision to keep these two guys. So if Garrett, and maybe he gets better as the year goes on, and I eat these words, very possible. I'm not saying it's not. But if Nico wasn't good enough to beat that guy that we saw on the field tonight, then I really question this coaching staff and their ability to identify talent by not bringing in a transfer quarterback. I watched Haynes King, the transfer from Texas A&M, light it up at Georgia Tech the other day. You tell me that we couldn't have got a Haynes King, somebody like that? It's ridiculous, guys. I just don't understand the evaluation of the talent with this coaching staff. There are players that I think they've done a good job with, but here in the last 2 years, it looks like another year the secondary, unless maybe I'm overreacting to game one. I certainly don't want to be a prisoner of the moment. Let me get to some comments because I'm just ranting. I know I am. If you guys don't forget the super chat button is down below, guys. If you want to send a super chat my way and support the channel, it would be very much appreciated. Certainly would always appreciate that. Try not to mention it too much, but it's down there for a reason, guys. Really do appreciate when you guys help with that. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe, the whole thing, and share the video out, guys, if you get a chance to. Would really much appreciate that as well. Let's go over some stats, guys. I feel like I'm being pretty calm. It's not like I'm over here screaming, man. I'm making pretty credible points. We ran the ball at will. Anytime, I don't care who you're playing against. If you run the ball at will, there's going to be passing lanes. There just wasn't, and I don't know if it's a combination of receivers and quarterback or what, but Garrett Green made a bunch of terrible throws tonight. He made a couple good throws towards the end of the game. But overall, I just was not pleased with his performance. 16 of 27 for 162 yards, 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. It's got to be better than that going forward. I'll give you the Penn State defense is really, really good. But if we're going to be anything like we aspire to be as West Virginia fans, 7, 8 wins, I think a lot of us want to win 7 or 8 games this year. We're going to have to improve. C.J. Donaldson had a good game. I'm surprised he only had 81 yards. It felt like he had 200 yards, but they were all smaller chunk yard plays, 7 to 10 yards. Garrett Green has 61 yards rushing and a touchdown, which 4 on 14 carries. Guys, Garrett Green cannot continue to carry the ball 14 times per game. He's not big enough. I don't think he'll survive the entire season. He was nicked up a couple times tonight at different points. I don't know. And there was a couple really bad calls, Penn State hitting him after he'd gotten to a sliding motion. I felt like he was hit late a couple times. C.J. Donaldson really did it all. Devin Carter had a nice game, six catches, 90 yards. Cole Taylor had 2 catches for 31 yards. Jalen Anderson had 2 catches for 15 yards. And after that, it's a crapshoot. These receivers did not get the job done tonight, guys. Once again, I understand. I watched it. Those corners were good. The pass rush was good. I get that. But this is unacceptable to me. The way we ran the ball, it's unacceptable. I don't know how else to really say it. Lee Kova played an excellent game from the middle linebacker spot. I was really proud of him. Travis Layson really stepped up at the will linebacker spot. I was really proud of him as well. John says if Nico played, Penn State would have blown West Virginia out. How can you say that? I mean, you telling me that Nico would have done worse than Garrett did there? I completely disagree. Garrett was off target. He missed an extremely important throw early in the game on a slant over the middle. It was well behind the player. It would have kept the drive going. And when it was a really close game, Penn State gets the ball, turns that into a touchdown. And there were others. Jalen Anderson had to pick 2 or 3 when they were trying to throw the little horizontal screens to him off his shoelaces. And there were others as well. Like I said, guys, I give Garrett plenty of credit. He's a warrior. He played really hard. Maybe he goes on a really good run the rest of the year and plays well for this team. I'm just upset with the loss, and I'm emotional after a loss. It is what it is. Probably shouldn't do lives right after a game. There was no pressure to escape. He would have played in the pocket, is how I see things. The way we were running the ball, he would have played within the pocket and got rid of the ball a little quicker. There were open receivers. I rewound it several times on my TV and watched their few plays over. Garrett Green comes off his first read and takes off. That's how he plays. He does not go through his progressions. Yes, the pass rush in certain situations had something to do with that, but there were other times where he had some time to look as well. Probably the best point of the night so far from Darren Cooper. He says, I can't say it enough. We have no business opening up on the road versus a powerful team. We need a couple things to get things down, couple games to get things down, get going first, then play a rough team. Different story. Maybe so. Have we opened up against Duquesne? Maybe things look a little different tonight. Be interested to know what you guys think about that. Do you think if West Virginia plays Duquesne first, is this game better or worse tonight versus Penn State if both teams have a game to play first? Do you guys think that West Virginia would play better, worse, somewhere in the middle? Because there's a lot of kinks to get out for this team. I know I'm being pretty harsh on overall on the team, but it's just frustrating to see our offense play like that. When CJ was running the ball so well. If there was no running game, I promise I would not be over here beating the table for this. But the way CJ was running it up the middle, several different plays, the linebackers were sucked up, and it was just that Garrett came off his first reader, made an inaccurate throw, and that was that. And in my opinion, Neal's play calling was number one. If you wanted me to assign blame, I'll say 70% of that is Neal Brown and his odd play calls, and I'll say 30% is the quarterback and wide receivers. Obviously, they play a part in this too. Traylon Ray dropped a wide open pass. I mean, Garrett Green wasn't the only person that played average or worse. Obviously, Garrett played well enough to run for 61 yards and a touchdown, so it wasn't all bad. On the defensive side of the ball, I was really impressed with our run defense. I was really shocked with how our run defense played against two of the best backs in the country. Some people said the best backfield in the country, against the best left tackle in America, against a right guard that's probably going to be a top day 2, day 3 pick. And at the end of the day, Drew Aller made up for every mistake and more. He was extremely dynamic tonight, throwing from different arm angles. He was almost like in a Josh Allen body with an Aaron Rodgers type arm. And I'm not, and I'll take whatever heat anybody's got in saying that. He has an elite arm that does not come around very often. And it's hard to say where he's going to be in another year or two. That kid's got a bright future. What? Okay, man. Not even going to respond to that. That was the only West Virginia was an inside running game. West Virginia played extremely well today. I will never. West Virginia was able to run the ball at will tonight, at will. Had nothing to do with that. In the go look and see how many times Garrett Green got sacked tonight. Come back and holler at me too. I agree. The defense did give us some opportunities at the end of the day. They were bend but don't break. You don't like the yards passing that were given up. A little over 300 yards passing given up, which, I mean, compared to some of the Big 12 numbers that have been put up against their defense in the past, you take it, But, I mean, if you told me we were going to give up 300 yards a game the rest of the year, would I take it against the Big 12 teams? I don't know. But that rushing performance defensively was good. I was really, really impressed with that. Mike Lockhart played a really good game in the middle of the defense, even though he got nicked up at times. Torma Malda came in and played really well. Sean Martin had a really good game from his defensive end spot. There was a lot of positives to take from the defensive side of the ball, other than the secondary. But I think a lot of it had to do with there was a couple different things for me. It was the odd arm angles and just insane ability for Drew Aller to throw the ball from one hash to the. We're not going to face another quarterback that I know of. Now, maybe there is somebody that I don't know that's coming up that's this, that's a backup or somebody that's. There's nobody we're going to face the rest of the year as talented as that guy. He was throwing from crazy arm angles across the field, throwing late and over the middle, completing passes that he probably shouldn't have completed. And he's extremely shifty and mobile within the pocket. Not like Tom Brady, but similar to how Tom Brady would make people miss and never leave the pocket. Drew Aller did that, except he didn't have his feet set the entire time. He was throwing off balance. He was throwing from weird arm angles. And I mean, I couldn't be more impressed with that kid. Had the other kid played, they probably would have ran for a bunch of yards because we played way too much cover two, which I'll say this. Penn State's tight ends, I thought they were going to beat Theo Johnson and Tyler Warren. I really thought we're going to play well in this game against cover two coming into the game. They had 19 catches for over 400 yards and 5 or 6 touchdowns coming into today against cover two high. Didn't see much from the tight ends today. It was all Keandre Lambert-Smith. We just could not stick with those receivers. We looked like we were in slow motion at times at the defensive back spot. I didn't hear Anthony Wilson's name called very much tonight, guys. See him on the field, but even though they talked about him making waves throughout camp, didn't see much of that at all today. I agree. And it's easy to assign too much blame to the quarterback, and I get that. Sometimes the receivers didn't get enough separation. My overall point is this. C.J. Donaldson ran for almost 100 yards, pretty much up the middle of Penn State's defense. It was all inside. And off of that, we should have been able to throw better than we did. And I don't know why it didn't happen. Like you said, maybe we didn't get enough separation. Obviously, Garrett threw some inaccurate balls as well. There was one deep pass where it looked like he was throwing it to the Penn State defensive back instead of Devin Carter. But that kid's the captain of their team, and he really locked up Devin Carter for most of the game. Devin Carter still got some of his. But most of his yards were on a busted coverage. 40 of them. Half his yards were on a busted coverage. I agree with David Lee. 2-point conversion was the best part of the game. I agree with that too, man. That was great. Little Kansas City Chiefs play call there. Now, had it gone wrong, of course, that'd have been another thing to add to the list of questionable Neil Brown play calls. But putting Nico Markiel in motion across the formation, and they did it more than once. Once it worked, and unfortunately, the other time it did not when they actually gave him the ball. What a spot to put Nico Markiel in. Can you save us on 4th down? Unbelievable play calls he made there tonight, guys. And I know that had he, completed or succeeded on a few of those, that Neil Brown would look like a genius, but that's why they play the games. What are you talking about, bro? What are you talking about? Marshall almost lost to Albany today. You know that, right? You make no sense, man. You make no sense. You just came on here to troll. Let's get into some more of these stats, guys. I'm interested to see how many tackles Lee Koba had. I went live before the game was over, so I haven't really had a chance to. Overall, total yards, West Virginia had 310, Penn State 478. Passing yards were at 332, 162 for West Virginia. West Virginia had 150 rushing yards. Penn State had 146. Yeah, I guess they did pick up a bunch of extra rushing yards at the end of the game. Penn State dominated yards per play, 7.4 to 4.6. West Virginia had 10 more or 10 less first downs. Third down efficiency, 4 out of 14. That's really big where we lost the game. We had to go on fourth down. We made that 50%, so that's not too bad. We ran 67 total plays, and unfortunately, the rule change where they have made the clock not stop on first downs until the last 2 minutes has a lot to do with those extra plays being taken away. I think they said 5 or 6 from each team. So time and possession, West Virginia did win 31-16 to 20, and Penn State had 28-44. So not too bad on the time of possession. I'll take winning time of possession, but unfortunately not a win in the win column. And that's kind of the part that I wanted to have, as probably you guys did, right? Trying to find some of the defensive stats here. Well, maybe you guys can let me know in the comments. I'm having trouble navigating all this at one time. My phone's trying to freeze up on me. Yeah, we want it time of possession, man. So it is what it is with that. Um, Everybody let me know in the comments who you think your defensive player of the game was. I'd like to hear that from everybody. We had a few different guys that I think played pretty well. Unfortunately, Aubrey Burks played a hit and miss game. It is what it is with that. I know he was matched up with Keandre Lambert Smith at one point and got left on a slant route, and it was behind, and Keandre Lambert Smith dropped the ball. Otherwise, he was gone. That's one play I remember with Aubrey Burks. I remember Aubrey Burks coming up and run support one time and making a play. Other than that, not much. Beanie Bishop had a really good game. Should have had 2 picks. Beanie Bishop secures any one of those 2 picks. Maybe we're talking about a little bit different of the game. You tell somebody that you're live and they still keep calling. Sorry, guys. Apologize for that. Yeah, that's my biggest concern coming out of this game, Krista, is definitely a secondary. I mean, it's a combination of things. Obviously, this is the first game for a new secondary. There's a lot of guys that are playing for the first time with each other. Now, a few of these guys have played together before. I was really hoping Anthony Wilson would come in and shore up that other safety spot, but he's such a run support type player, and he is not a pass coverage type of safety. Luckily, he plays the side of the safety that is more for run support, but if you're going to play too high, sometimes you need 2 guys that can cover on the back end. Andrew Wilson-Lant played a pretty good game. Didn't hear his name a lot, but the times I did watch, he looked like he played pretty well. He did get beat on a couple balls, but we're talking about elite skill talent, guys. Probably Texas would be the next best roster, maybe Oklahoma. But Texas, top to bottom, will probably be the next best roster that we face, especially at the skill position players. I think Penn State's probably going to only get better as the year goes on. That's just my opinion. We'll see how it rolls. But I think there is a lot to be encouraged by in this game, namely the running game. I just wish we had a more consistent quarterback, guys. Unfortunately, JT Daniels has not learned from any of his lessons, so that didn't hurt us any. Although he had a pretty impossible task today playing for Rice. But I'll say this, guys. if you had to put a scale of 1 to 10 on the buy-in, right? I got to say the buy-in was at a 9 today. These guys played their asses off, man. I mean, they really did. They wanted to win this football game for Coach Brown. Everybody knows the tenor and the temperature in the room when it comes to that. But at the end of the day, I just feel like he doesn't put our team in positions to win. There are guys that do, and there are guys that don't. Go look at Colorado today. They started an entire offensive line, except for one player, brand new skill position players, two of which we were in the running for. I've got messages in my inbox from Jimmy Horn Jr. and Xavier Weaver. That's how close we were to getting both of those players. They play for Colorado today. They both go off. I think they had 100 yards each. They put a five-star player in the backfield, obviously. And Shadur Sanders obviously played well. I mean, they've got talent. But all those guys started for the first time today with an incredible play caller. And you'd think they played 4 years together, the way that offense looked today. And it's just disheartening when you see the kind of creative play calling that Colorado had today, albeit with better skill position talent than we have. It's still way more creative looking play calls. Now, maybe that's because the plays worked. But to me, overall, just real frustrating to see the kind of offense that we run week in and week out. And honestly, guys, I don't feel like it fits us culturally as West Virginians. Anytime we've won, it's been with a gritty type offense, similar to how Penn State ran today. And I don't like I'm tired of Big 12 offense, guys. I was burnt out after about year 5 with Dana. And here we continue to run these soft type, offenses. And I just don't know. I mean, when's the last time we had one that really worked for us? Will Greer, David Sills, Gary Jennings. 2016, 2017 is not coming back, And unfortunately, we're in the spot we're in. All I can do is try not to be a prisoner of the moment and get too down on the team for one loss and start trying to make all these wholesale changes. I can't make any changes, but you know what I'm saying in my videos and stuff like that. Thanks, Josh. Appreciate it for the comment. Yeah, I mean, obviously we love our offensive line, our secondary. We have some pieces there, we feel like, but it's hard to say because we played against such a skilled group tonight. They had to account for the run. They had to account for the pass, quarterback that can sling it all over the field. And you just wonder if this was just too tough a first test for our guys. Time will tell. I think they get a step back, hopefully, against Duquesne next week. Hopefully, we win that game by 50 points and get a lot of guys, including Nico, some playing time. Would love to see that. And then we go back we play another Pennsylvania-based team in the Pitt Panthers, the backyard brawl. I think we can win that game. I'm not completely down on this team. I think we can run the ball against anybody. If we can run the ball against that group, we can run the ball against anybody, even though they're a little light on the inside. I think we're going to be okay in some facets. Are we a 9-win team? Probably not. But who knows, man? Anything can happen. Teams improve from game 1 to game 2. So, has anybody watched the Neil Brown press conference? Is it on yet? Probably a little bit too early for that. Uh-huh. We'll see, John. That's completely baseless. That's not true at all. If let me ask you this, man. If you've got a quarterback that is inaccurate, receivers that don't get open, and you've got a strong running game, to me that just doesn't make sense. Now, I mean, should we have thrown for more than 161 yards? Sure. But the offensive line had nothing to do with the passing game being underwhelming tonight. He had plenty of time to throw it on certain occasions. He didn't run for his life on others. But to me, I feel like Garrett Green it was probably 50-50, but to me it looked like he came off his first read and took off because instinctually that's just what he does. And in other cases, there was pressure. But to me, Garrett Green's a guy, and they said they try to coach it out of him. This has been something they've talked about all camp long. They've tried to get him to go through his progressions. I looked at several plays tonight on my TV and rewound them on my YouTube TV, and it looked like to me he was coming off his first read at least 50% of the time. So you can say what you want to say, but I'm going to disagree with that. The offensive line has something to do with the passing game, but nowhere near the skill players and quarterback at all. I mean, it's just not even close. Yeah, I can't believe Marshall almost lost to Albany today. That was wild to me. Guys, we got 141 people in here. If you could do me a favor and like the video, if you like it. If you don't like it, hit the thumbs down even. It is what it is with that. I understand if you don't agree with my takes. Not everybody's going to. That's why I made a YouTube, channel so that I can come on here and have my own opinion. Certainly don't want to, shame anybody or talk crap about anybody that's in the comment section. We're going to disagree, but hopefully we can just leave it at that and not let it get personal. Like the video if you can, guys. Share it out with your friends. Certainly appreciate that. Comment, after the fact, if you're watching this, guys, would appreciate a comment. How did you guys feel Jalen Anderson performed tonight? Because I was really expecting him to take a step up this year. So, I understand the Oklahoma State performance was, one in which CJ was hurt and he was the guy, and he got a lot of carries and attempts. But I expected him to do a little better than he did. Being that CJ had the game that he had, but the difference between him and CJ is a guy that makes one cut and hits it, and Jalen's a guy that has to be patient and in the zone running scheme tries to make cuts. When the holes open up. Well, Penn State's defensive line is a penetrating defensive line. They don't beat you by strength; they beat you by speed and kind of like Dante Stills. And to me, I think that's probably the biggest reason he didn't have a game. Because I have a nephew that watches every show that I do that is 11 years old or 9 years old, and he's autistic, and he will repeat some of those words. So I have it set up on my YouTube to catch certain curse words. So I'm just not a big fan of them, and like I said, my family watches these because he thinks it's amazing that I'm in his TV or on his phone or whatever. So that's why. I mean, he also had a few plays where he got sacked, but at the end of the day, he stepped up into the pocket and created that time for him. Think about it. When he was going back to pass, our pass rush was overrunning Drew Aller in some cases. And so what he would do to combat that was step up into the pocket. Well, West Virginia wisened up to that, and they kept a spy on him at certain points in the game, which was Lee Koba at certain points. But Aller is so good with different arm angles that while he was stepping up into the pocket, and it was more like a jog up into the pocket, he was thrown from different arm angles on the run, running straight at our middle linebacker or whoever was spying him. And from different arm angles, he was slinging all over the field, literally to different hashes. So, I mean, you can say anybody would look good, but not anybody can make the throws that Drew Aller made tonight. That's just my opinion. Yeah, the last touchdown kind of pissed me off, but Franklin, he's known for doing that. And a couple of the guys I had on the show told me that he would probably do it if given the chance. So, and he can kind of hide behind the fact that he was using a backup, right? I was trying to get my backup ready, and he just scored. That's a good question, Tosh. Uh, I don't know, man. You know, his family had a bunch of pictures before the game. Here's what I see. Me and a buddy of mine call it the sphincter test. How tight was Neil Brown's butthole on the sidelines tonight? Pretty tight, right? So I think Rodney Gallagher didn't make it into the game probably like he was planned to make it, just because the players that Neil Brown viewed as the best players played tonight. We heard Traylon Ray outperformed him in most of camp, especially towards the end, even though he got here a little bit later. And it was also because I'm sure Rodney played, but Garrett just was not throwing it to the slot tonight. It just didn't happen. It was either to the tight end, to an outside receiver, or that was it, to a running back. You know, so there wasn't many throws to the slot. I remember one that went to Preston Fox that he tried to catch with one hand and didn't go to him. Maybe somebody else can correct me. So we'll see. What's up, RS? Thank you for your comment, man. Penn State fan here. You guys look good. Think you'll have a good year. Your old line looks good, and you'll have a great run game. Yeah, we just have to play complementary football. We definitely need a better passing attack than we had tonight. We have to figure that out. You know, even if we have to go get somebody on the bench to play. You know, I don't want to bench Garrett Green, guys. I really don't. I just wish that I'm sure it was nerves. Maybe he calms down going forward. I don't want to keep bashing the kid, but he's got to play better than he did tonight throwing the football. He had some nice throws to end the game. It seemed like when he loosened up, but then Penn State's defense was allowing some of that stuff. And it was like I said earlier, it was a combination of your DBs were really, really good. King and Cox were probably one of the better tandems in America, and so they didn't allow our receivers to get open much either. So even if he did have room, it's probably going to be tough to fit that in there. Yeah, it was definitely frustrating on the flags. I felt like there was a few where we deserved it, especially on Garrett. He slid a couple times, and for whatever reason, they didn't call. There was a late hit on one slide that I can remember on the left side. They didn't call it. I mean, it was bang bang. But listen, here's what I said before the game to a friend of mine. Just asking him a question. I said, "Do you really think Fox would let West Virginia beat Penn State in the first game of the new TV deal?" You know, I mean, it's a question I ask myself. Now, if you say no to that question, then that means you might subscribe to conspiracy theories. I'm not saying I'm a conspiracy theorist, but you hear the term home cooking. Maybe there was a little bit of that going on tonight. You know, it's not be the first time it happened. If you haven't liked the video, guys, ask that you like the video. There is a super chat button down below if you want to donate to the channel at all. This is my full-time job. Would certainly appreciate that. If you don't want to do that, leaving a comment below or sharing the video, it helps a lot. So really appreciate that. Oh yeah, got to do one thing real quick, guys. My apologies. This episode of Mountaineer Paul Talks Football has been brought to you by Dutch Miller Automotive, where friends and family pricing get you the best deal right up front on any new or pre-loved vehicle in stock every time. With brands like Chevrolet, Dodge, Ram, Jeep, Kia, Hyundai, and Subaru, The Dutch Miller Automotive family is always growing and ready to put you in the car or truck you've been searching for. Check out our inventory today across West Virginia at DutchMillerAuto.com or come in today to the home of friends and family pricing, only at a Dutch Miller Automotive store near you. Sorry about that, guys. I meant to do it earlier on in the show before we had 125 people in here. I just forgot. I was frustrated with the game. Thanks for commenting, Matthew Flack. Neil's play calling lost his game out identity, tried to be too fancy, give the ball to CJ, throw some slants, and get the Taylor involved. The game's a lot closer. I agree with you, to an extent. Like I said, I put it 70% on Neil and some of the play calling. It was extremely vanilla. 30% on the quarterback and wide receivers. That's kind of how I put the game. I mean, offensively, not the entire pie. Defensively, we definitely had our issues. But well, with the way we ran the ball, you can make a case for it. I certainly think that our passing attack, if you told me we were going to run the ball like we did, and we could have had more yards than we did, Neil just, for whatever reason, after a few of those first downs, chose to pass the ball on first down. And when we were running the ball successfully leading up to that, and it's just not in Neil Brown's genes to run the ball on every play. And I think that had a lot to do with it. He just has to throw the ball, even if something's working to otherwise. So it is what it is, man. Thanks, Matt. We appreciate you, bro. Thanks for checking in with us. We're going to make it. We're going to survive. At the end of the day, we're proud fans, and I don't think any of us want to be the 5-6 win team. We don't expect that. Unfortunately, we have a coach right now that's about what he's worth. He's worth 5-6 wins, and until we make a change at the top, we're probably going to continue to be mediocre. Now, and now he can change that. He can win 8 or 9 games, and I'll completely change my opinion. But at the end of the day, I don't think he will. I think Neil Brown is a mediocre Power 5 coach. And I'm, done trusting the climb. I love his recruiting. I love his culture building. I love his interview. I love his character. But on the field, it just hasn't worked. And even though we were supposed to lose this game, there are still issues happening. Now, we played a cleaner game overall than we have in other season openers. Not as many penalties, no turnovers. That was great. But the play calling, I'm going to keep hearkening back to the play calling. And I mean, it was just ugly at times. It really was. Bama 25 says West Virginia will go 8-4, possibly 9-3. Wow. We'll take it. And I will be glad to eat every word, but all I know about you is what you've shown me. And Neil Brown has shown me that he's mediocre up until now at West Virginia. So it is what it is. Well, Nasmo, I've had Stephen Ford on another show. I've talked to him personally on the side. He is the COO of the Country Roads Trust. And at the end of the day, when people send their money in, I would say it's 80-20 for basketball. That's why we had the number 1 class in America. Because Neil Brown wasn't winning and Bob Huggins was who he was, we got the support for basketball and not football. We're a football school, but we just happen to have a Hall of Famer at the basketball side. So just keep that in mind when you make statements like that, man. At the end of the day, I think, the Country Roads Trust only had what it had for football, and it wasn't enough. If we win, we'll have enough for sure, at least to retain what, our better players and add a couple each year. Thought I saw Coos right there. Right. Yeah, it was too little, too late. I do too. I do too. Maybe he gets some snaps against Duquesne next week, but I have a feeling that Neil's not going to blame Garrett for any of this. Once he chooses a guy, he's ride or die, man. He's shown that. Garrett was the obvious choice over Jarrett Dagey, was he not? Do we disagree with that? Although Jarrett Dagey had some good passing games for West Virginia, I I just I don't know. But then we move on to JT Daniels. We certainly thought he was playing pretty bad. I had the stats to back it up. Go back to a couple games ahead of now, this time last year on this channel, and you'll see I had an episode titled "Fired Bench JT Daniels," and it was not too far after the Virginia Tech game, and that's because all the numbers said he was trending in a certain direction, and he did. And unfortunately, he never benched him, not until it was too late. So Neil sticks with the quarterback once he picks one. I hate to say it, but it is what it is. Sure. Yeah, I mean, you don't see the donation button? Huh. Maybe I have to look into that, Outlaw. I'm not sure, man. Maybe that's why I've got no super chats tonight. I usually get a couple. I mean, I know I probably made a couple people mad with my comments tonight, but usually I get a couple super chats. Coos, can you go into my settings and see what's up with that if you have time? If you don't, it's cool. It's already 47, 48 minutes into it now, so, you know, but I don't know exactly what's going on with that. I should be there. You won 2 weeks, so I mean, we all know you played Wofford, so I mean, a win's a win. You got this week. You won't be smiling in a couple. That's all I can say. Thanks, Matthew. I sent Coos into the. He has admin abilities on my channel, so um, if it's missing, he'll be able to fix it. I'm sorry, guys. I thought people were mad at me. Usually, I get a couple super chats, but I was talking bad about Garrett Green and Neil Brown, and I caught hell on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it for that. Um, People just don't want to hear anything negative in some cases, and some people just flat out disagreed with me that Garrett was playing bad at certain points in the game. You know, at one point he was 6 for 9 with a drop, but it was right after he made that really bad decision on third and short when he missed the guy when he missed. I think it was Traylon Ray on a slant. I'm not sure, but I'll tell you what, another guy who was a bust for me tonight was Cortez Brahan. We heard all camp long that he was ready to go and might be the best receiver in the room, and he was all quiet tonight. I know we played against a really good secondary, but I was expecting more out of him as well. Dude, we're listen. You guys might move the ball offensively, but we're going to run it down your throat for sure. You don't have anywhere near the caliber defense that we just played against. We did it last year. We'll do it this year. Same players, So I mean, it's gonna be a good and close game. But I really do feel good about West Virginia's chances against Pitt because they're not Penn State. Yeah, I agree, Onyx. We feel like that, we hope so. And I would love nothing more than to bully Pitt before we stop playing the backyard brawl for 12 years again like we did last time. That was a nice little run we had. We could say we beat Pitt. But then they'll just revert back to 13-9. I'm sure he'll probably put it in the chat box any minute. Anytime we beat them or have something over them, they revert back to 13-9. That's what they do. Uh, yeah. Get them, Outlaw. Yeah, I did too, man. The defense played well, and I mean at times. Obviously, pass defense was bad, run defense was good, but overall, just the effort from our guys, I was proud of. Like I said, you look at you on a buy-in check, the players were bought in. They were, and there was nobody that mailed it in before this one. I mean, how can you in front of 100,000+ peeps? But I was proud for the buy-in and how the guys played. So unfortunately, it wasn't enough, but maybe we can keep that rolling. Telemonics. We can disagree on that, Skeeter. I mean, listen, Garrett Green did not have a good game. The play calling didn't help. That's always, it's pretty obvious, but he missed several throws tonight, and there were open players on. I rewound it. It's easy to look in hindsight and say, but because we were losing the game anyway, I was kind of behind. I kept rewinding to look and see what Garrett was looking at on any given play. Now, given in a lot of cases, it was from the side view that you get when you watch TV. But even I can see he missed a few throws tonight. So, I mean, as far as wide open players, there were a couple tonight that he missed. So, and I think his size has something to do with that. There was a couple times where he's 5'11", and seeing over the offensive line is not always going to be easy for him. That's why you get him out on the edge and let him throw it around. No problem, Matthew, man. It's, I mean, I feel like that, and I know Coos does too. We feel like we owe that to you guys. Coos has company over tonight, so I knew he wasn't going to be able to do one. So I figured I'd get up here and throw my opinion on the airwaves one more time tonight. At the end of the day, guys, there's a lot of positives we can take from this game. I think we can see a path to maybe 7 or 8 wins for this team. I still think it's possible. All is not lost. I'm not going to be making any Fire Neil Brown videos just yet. A few more weeks for that. But we've got to win against Duquesne, get right on that. We've got some guys that are banged up. We've got to get them probably healthy because this is, excuse me, a really physical game. And then we've got Pitt, right? We've got to win the backyard brawl. I mean, to me, it's a must-win game, even though it's non-con, just because I don't want to lose to Pitt. And I don't, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's the last time we play for a few years. And I could be wrong on that. I haven't looked at this next year's schedule yet, but so just for those facts, we need to beat Pitt. Obviously, Texas Tech is going to be a tough game. I haven't really seen much of them yet, but from all indications, say they're supposed to be pretty good. So, and I haven't got to study them yet either. So, but it's going to be a typical Big 12 team that's, for some reason, Neil Brown's never beat. Yeah, from what I understand, we play Penn State at home next year, Kelsey. So that'll be fun. That and talk about a game that's going to sell out quick. And that means Drew Aller will be coming to Morgantown next year. Yeah, unless he transfers, or I don't think he's old enough to go to the league yet. Maybe he is. I'd have to check into that. I don't know if he's a redshirt sophomore or if he's just a sophomore. We'll have to check into that. But even so, the guy they had playing behind tonight's really, really good. Very similar to Trace McSorley. But that's one of the things that I kind of wonder about is I really feel like this roster's a year away from being really good. You know, Traylon Ray, Rodney Gallagher, just Josiah Trotter, Travius Lathan, go on with it. Uh, and I think we probably have a better showing next year, but then we lose our offensive line as well. So there's always a trade off. That's why I hope we can get better in the portal. All right, guys. Appreciate you guys for coming in and supporting the channel. Like I said, you guys mean the world to me. You really, truly do. Uh, at the end of the day, I don't know if Coos, did you check that? Um, but at the end of the day, guys, you know, we've got what should be a cupcake on next week's schedule. We'll be looking forward to that. There's 137 of you guys in here. If you can do me one favor, just click the like button for me on this one. That way I'll get a good start with the algorithm and maybe I can get this video viewed out to a wider audience. I would really appreciate that. If you're watching this after the fact, please leave a comment and everything. I appreciate you guys, like I said, for tuning in. West Virginia loses to Penn State in what was never really a close game. There are positives to take from it, guys. The sky's not falling, but we really appreciate the support from you guys. You guys are the best fans in college football. Top 5 on Twitter. Even when Fox did the poll, you guys are top 5. You guys always show up and show out. We appreciate that. Even the trolling Pitt fans came in here and talked to us today. So we appreciate you guys, man. And I'm going to jump off here and get some rest. And got some stuff to do with the family tomorrow. I hope you guys do the same. This has been another episode of Mountaineer Paul Talks Football. This episode is over. All right, man.